Some people also say that, whilst some of them have enjoyed working in audit for a few years, they don't see themselves to have a long-term career in audit, and they'd actually quite like to change departments. So we have some people that move from the audit side of the business to the accounting side of the business, or even the tax side of the business. Some people are pretty open and honest with us and say, look, I really want to go into industry, but I'd quite like to go into accounting for a couple of years here first, and work on lots of different companies before I then make the jump. And I've got those skills which I perhaps haven't built at the minute in the audit side of the business. So again, I think the key thing is, from our perspective as an employer, we want to have these conversations with people. We want to retain people. And if they ask, there's a pretty good chance of getting, actually, particularly in the current market. So I would encourage all of you, if the firms that you're working for aren't having these conversations with you, a good starting point would be to go and speak to them and ask, say to a partner, could I have half an hour of your time just to talk about career opportunities and opportunities within the firm? And also they've got all sorts of knowledge, and they can give you an insight into what it's like working in industry as well. So I'd really recommend having those conversations, and I'm sure they'll all be open to having those conversations with you. Also, again, post-qualification, we look at things like mentoring. So again, if you guys aren't being mentored at your current place, that'd be something to have a conversation with the partners about, see if you can get a mentoring scheme in place. We find that really valuable.
That's something we have, Michael Page, and I didn't realize how valuable it was until I had it. So it's one of those things, I heard about it, but people who are more senior than me, my lights have just gone out. People who are more let's do it by the darkness. People who are more senior than me, they had mentors, and I was like, I don't know what that is. And then when I had it myself, I was like, oh my gosh, it just helps you think about things differently from someone who's experienced in a different part of the business. So you don't realize how good it is until you have it. So that's pretty good for you all to have. I think
that's exactly what we do as well. And we have the mentors are from other departments, so it's not people in your department, and they can bring a fresh perspective on things, and you can have fairly open conversations. So again, with all these things, if I think a lot of firms are doing them anyway, but if your firm isn't doing them, go and ask for it. People are pretty open to new ideas. They're pretty open to doing these things. And if you know someone from another department that you get on well with, ask them to mentor you, and I'm sure you'll get plenty of useful insights from them. Another thing for us, because we've got an international network, international secondments again is another thing that's potentially on the table for people, if that's what they want to do. But the important thing is to have the conversation, two-way conversation. So if you're not having those at the minute, if the firm isn't coming to you, then I'd recommend you go to the firm and start to have those conversations with them.
Yeah, I think something that is a lot of people who are in practice, who are studying or newly qualified, at the moment, I'm having lots of conversations with people who they don't always know what they can do in practice to kind of utilize their CV to either progress in practice or to potentially move out into industry. And so something I always discuss with newly qualified people is what sector exposure are you getting in practice? And I think the great thing about practice, especially like a mid-tier firm, is that you can get a variety of exposure of lots of different clients. So you can kind of get that feeling for the type of sector that you might enjoy, or work with a particular client and think, oh, maybe longer term I'd like to go in-house with this type of client. I think that's something, the variety that practice offers is really useful for people who are about to qualify, to see what they like and what they could potentially do more of. Yeah, have you found that kind of, obviously because you've worked through a variety of different sized firms, how have you found that, comparing maybe like a larger firm to a smaller firm? How have you compared that?
Yes, it's a really good question, and it's something I was going to come on to, actually, because in the larger firms, so if you take RSM for an example, I think they're number 7 at the minute in the league tables, about 300 million turnover, so they're a big business, and they've got a very wide range of services. So one of the things I found valuable when I was there, in terms of my learning and development, and even as a partner, you're still learning and developing, believe me, is that you get the opportunity to talk to lots of different experts, providing lots of different services to clients, whether they're sort of different tax services or corporate finance or consulting around, streamlining processes, that type of thing. So there's all sorts of people, and that's really valuable. And I'd encourage you, if you're in those type of firms, to, go out and talk to people in other departments and get an understanding of what they do and see some of the reports that they produce and some of the advice they give to clients, because it's all part of your learning and development, and it's all part of you building your skills, which are going to be useful to you and your future employers over the course of your career. So yeah, I mean, I found that really useful in RSM. And actually, while I was in RSM, I quite liked corporate finance. I was out, with colleagues talking to clients about corporate finance, and I actually decided myself when I was about 35 to go and do a diploma in corporate finance. So again, I thought, I'd quite like another string to my bow. This is all quite interesting. I'd like to be able to advise clients. So yeah, even later in life, you haven't got to go and do exams immediately. And quite a lot of our guys actually, because of COVID and things, they want to have a year or two off before they go and do additional exams, because it's been a tough time and they want to enjoy themselves a little bit. So, but they might come back to it a couple of years later. So I think all those
uni
things,
as well, isn't it? Sorry, go on. Sorry.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think all those sorts of, discussions and things are really useful. What I did found more difficult in the bigger firms, they are very driven in terms of departmentally. So, if you were working in audit, you wouldn't be able to do any corporate finance work, for example. If you're working in corporate finance, you shouldn't be able to do any audit work. So, they're very sort of departmentally driven, and you're very sort of clear on what you can and cannot do. In a smaller firm like ourselves, I do audit, I do corporate finance, I do quite a lot of, different things, and so do the people that work for us. So you can get a broader sort of experience in terms of actually delivering the work, rather than just talking to people that provide the work themselves. So, and it's not always that easy to move different departments in the bigger firms. So you might want to go into corporate finance, let's say, if you've trained in audit, but they might not want you, or might not have room for you, or whatever else it might be. So so there's different pros and cons. In terms of us as a smaller firm, so I'll give you a good example of how we could be quite flexible around those sorts of things. About 4 years ago, one of our guys who trained with us, he'd been with us about 7 years, he said, like, I don't want to do audit anymore, but I'm really interested in data analytics. This is something that's starting to kick off. I think there's an opportunity for us here. So we actually backed him to build a data analytics business. He had a background in physics at university, and data mining was part of his dissertation that he did. So he had, if you like, quite a bit of knowledge there. He had the business skills from what he'd learned with us. So we brought it all together, and we built a data analytics business up to 4 people over the course of a couple of years. So just backing one of our good guys that we had in our business. And again, in the bigger firms, it's more difficult to do that, whereas we could make a decision quite quickly and get on with it. So there's pros and cons of bigger firms, smaller firms, and wherever you are, it's just about making sure you're getting the benefit of both in terms of what they can offer, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and something you touched on then is obviously the corporate finance route. I have a corporate finance conversation maybe 2 to 3 times a day with different people who really want to move into that space. And often what I advise is, speak to your current firm. Can they facilitate you to move internally into their team? If you're in a really small firm, you might need to move to a larger firm and then move internally into that space. I think it's obviously quite a competitive space. So it's the good thing about where you currently are is that if you've got good people, you're going to want to offer them things they're going to be passionate about. So same as like for my team, I know that if one person in my team wants to search for a certain type of candidate or whatever, great, go for it. Like, if you're good at what you do, you want to support the people around you that are going to be good. So yeah, I think corporate finance is such a space that it's seen as really like progressive and new, and you get to speak to, you can mergers and acquisitions and all this stuff, like deal advisory, lead advisory. So I think it's good to have someone like you who can, if that's your longer term, then how are we going to get you there? I think it's great that your firm support that, because as you said, it's not always as easy as that. It can be very competitive in the larger firms to get into that space. So it's good that you've got the variety.
Yeah, you know, and I would say to the guys on the call as well, you know, I mean, I've mentioned quite a bit about doing a bit of research, you know, talking to people in the firm, talking to the partners, talking to other peers, talking to friends in other firms,
Mm.
and also, you know, talk to the guys at Michael Page as well, because, you know, they've, you know, we've been working with them for lots and lots of years, and they've been in the market for lots of years, and each firm has their own strengths, and they have
Yeah.
their own cultures, and they have their own different ways of working. So, you know, they've got a good overview of that, and they can help you, if you like, approach the right firms and slot yourself into the right place. So, you know, it's
Mm.
like anything, knowledge is power. So speak to the people that's got the knowledge, and let them help you with these
Yeah.
types of moves.
So what's your, like, what would be the one take, like the one golden nugget that you would offer to someone who's about to qualify? What would be the main bit of advice that you think is really, really important for them to consider?
That's a really good one. I
Sorry to
think
put you on the spot.
no, I think that's a really good question. I mean, I would say to people, I think most people, though they've worked in the profession for 3 years,
Yeah.
they still don't know a huge amount about it. You know, and you talk
Yeah.
to trainees, and they don't really know what the managers do, and they don't really know what the partners do. So I think it's all about just building that knowledge. And as I say, you know, if you go and approach managers and say, look, can you just sit with me and just show me what your diary looks like for a week, and just explain to me what you do, and show
Yeah.
me some of the work that you do, so you get a much better understanding of, you know, what the manager role is, and likewise with the partner, because actually the role is substantially different as a manager and a partner to what you would have experienced in the first 3 years as a trainee. So, and you know, so have those conversations internally. As I say, have conversations with people that are working in industry, and listen to their experiences. I know you've got a couple of speakers on later that are in
Yes.
industry, so you know, all of you obviously are doing the right thing and coming to things like this to broaden your knowledge. And that's really the key to it, you know, get that understanding, and then you're able to make better decisions in terms of what you do with your future.
That's great. Thank you so much, Stuart. Thank you for joining us with this. If anyone has any questions for Stuart, please feel free to type away, and I can obviously ask them as and when. Also, as well, I guess, Stuart, you know, you're fully approachable if anyone would want to contact you on LinkedIn or add you as a connection, just to see what the kind of things your firm are getting up to. That would be interesting for them to look at as well. So yeah, thank you. That's really insightful, and yeah, just thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.